In the car culture, reliability and fun are commonly just like, people just don't think it's possible to happen. But it definitely can. It happens all the time. People are freaking building up. My 350Z is very fun. It's very reliable, even though it's up on a lift right now with the exhaust half off and my O2 sensor cut in half. That's my fault, okay? I put it on the ground. And now when I go over bumps, it rips apart my O2 sensors. I kind of cry about it, but whatever. Who cares? Today, I was looking on the interwebs and I looked up the top 10 most reliable cars ever built, and I found a list of the top 15. It was the first one to pop up, and I read it and I got surprised. I got surprised at some of the choices on that list. So I decided I want to share this with my YouTube brothers over there. And so I got you guys with the top 15 coolest, most reliable cars. So these are the 15 most reliable, but I have ranked them in my personal order from which one is the least coolest to the coolest. If that makes any sense. If that works. Anyway, guys, my name is Mark Roden, and welcome back to the channel. If you want to support the channel any more than you already are, head on over to www.smoothstance.com/shop to pick yourself up any merchandise. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, so number 15 is the Hyundai Elantra, which actually also gets 15th for the most reliable too. And the car was introduced in 1990, and ever since then it has been like a #1 choice for daily drivers all over the place, which is awesome. Now, normally I would hate this car, and I do. I would never own one, and it's 15th place on my list for the coolest. I don't think they're cool at all. But one thing I will say to bring them back to life, to put a little respect on their name, is what they did for Hyundai makes me love it. Having a car that could just sell a massive amount to the general public and has no character to it is something that car guys usually don't like. But when they use the profits from it to make cool cars like the Veloster or the Genesis, then I have to give respect to them. So thank you, Hyundai Elantra, for birthing some of the coolest sports cars. Number 14 is the Toyota Corolla. Corolla, baby, all right? It comes in at number 5 for the most reliable, which makes sense, and they are just boring in every way to me. I don't like them at all, to be honest, and there just isn't much that they have going for them. I think even the Camry is a much better option, because now, honestly, the new Camrys actually look really cool, and they always have had just a better engine anyway. Like, the Camrys are just better. I like them better. But hey, it's a vid for reliability, and Toyota is like one step under Honda when it comes to reliability. Plus, I'm sure you can make it look very cool if you actually tried, put a bunch of money into it. But bone stock, it's just a very boring little sedan to me. Most of these cars are, but at least most of them have like a lot of support aftermarket wise, or they can be tuned to be cool. This one is just it's just a Corolla. Like, there's nothing really special about it, but they are very reliable. 5th place. Number 13 is the Ford Focus, which comes in at 11th for the most reliable, and it has a couple of different generations to it. But as long as you just don't buy the Focus ST or the RS or any performance package for this car, then you're going to be just fine. That's what I'm talking about with reliability, is any Ford Focus that's kind of just a base model. Now, the ST and the RS are obviously way more fun versions of this car, but unfortunately, reliability isn't always going to be the most fun version. But that doesn't mean that you have to keep the base model stock. You can still modify these cars a little bit and have some fun with it. Just don't expect to be on pace with like the other builds, which is why I couldn't really put it any higher, because yes, it has a twinkle of modifyingness to it, but for the most part, it's pretty much just a daily driver. It's better than the Corolla and the Elantra in the terms of like tuning potential, but still not better than the other ones. Number 12 is the Subaru Outback. Yes, a Subaru is very reliable. It's actually the 12th most reliable, which is kind of funny. I didn't plan that. And I know you were probably thinking, well, Mark, if Subarus are reliable, then how come everybody says Subarus are unreliable and they blow head gaskets? And that's because people like to take the naturally aspirated Subarus, like this one. The Outback did not come with a turbo, and then turbocharge them, and then they run huge boost on it, and they are not good for that. If you buy a naturally aspirated non-turbo Subaru and you turbocharge it, you're asking for trouble. If you want a turbocharged Subaru that can do it reliably, just buy a WRX, all right? I know it's the basic one, but it's basic because it works. The Outback, though, it's just a daily driver that looks cool when you slam it on the ground, and that's about it. Sure, it has a Subaru Flat 4 in it that you can have a little bit of fun with, but maybe not reliably. But the main thing that I like about the Outback is just when they get lowered. Number 11 is the Honda CR-V. It's one of the most reliable cars on this list. Actually, it comes in at 3rd place, bronze medal for the most reliable cars in the world, and it's a Honda. So, I mean, what do you expect? Something is going on over at Honda. It's like they make their cars out of freaking titanium or something, because they just simply never break. And when they finally do break, which is like a miracle in of itself, they are the easiest and cheapest cars in the world to fix. If you are looking for a daily, there's quite literally no better choice than a Honda. And the CRV is probably your best bet if you're just looking for a daily. But the reason why I didn't put the CRV any higher is the CRV can't really be modified a lot besides slamming it on the ground. So I just didn't want to put it higher than some of the other legends. Number 10 is the Toyota Camry, which takes the number 4 spot for reliability. And the new Camrys, dude, are just beautifully sick looking cars, I have to admit. But I would still honestly never buy one. It's funny because before I looked it up, I always thought that the Toyota Camry was easily the most reliable car, hands down. And the only one that comes even close was the Honda Civic. But it's not. It only gets 4th place. It's weird. You would think, like, I guess it's just like the media and how people portray different things. But I guess, like, you always hear like Camry and reliability in the same sentence. And obviously it's still extremely reliable. But I always thought it was just the most reliable. But no, it's not. I don't hate these cars anymore ever since the new one came out, but I still don't love them. Number 9 is the Mazda 3, which actually gets the number 7 spot for most reliable, and they are just like the Focus that we talked about earlier, where if you want to have the performance one, the Speed 3, which is the one that everybody wants, to be honest, then you're giving up that reliability, which does suck. But the only difference between the Ford Focus and this is I think that at least the Mazda 3 looks good in its base model form. Like, the Ford Focus just looks so boring in its base model form, but at least the Mazda 3 actually can look pretty good. I've actually seen some extremely good looking Mazda 3s sitting on the ground. And no, this does not include the sedan, which is actually called the Mazda 6. I'm pretty damn sure that they are the same. They have the same engine in it, but somehow they didn't make the cut. Don't ask me. I didn't make the list. Number 8 is the Subaru Impreza non-WRX version once again. You kind of have to realize that the more fun more fun versions of cars are always going to be more unreliable. And by the way, this one gets the number 9 spot, but it's a bit more reliable than the Outback, and it looks about 10 times better in my opinion. They also actually have a bit of tuning potential to them if you take care, of the head gasket issues. And I like that about them. Like, the Outback, yes, it has tuning potential, but at least this one, it has like a fart more of tuning potential, but at least it looks cool. Plus, the Impreza aftermarket support is through the roof since it shares most parts with the WRX. The only downside to the car is when it's bone stock. They are very boring cars, bone stock, and literally everybody has one of these cars, so you have to modify it to make it your own. Number 7 is the Volvo 850, which I'm super surprised to even put on this list, to be honest, but they get the 14th spot, so they're obviously not the best, but they still made it on the list, which is saying something. Now, Volvo is just freaking sick, man. I have always loved Volvo, and so have the Russians, but most people would look at them and think that they aren't reliable because of how the car community, portrays them as beater cars. But it makes sense when you really think about it. Like, Volvo has been one of the best-selling car brands in the world for a couple of years now because they are insanely cheap and reliable as all hell while still being cool somehow, which is very hard to accomplish. Like, drifting Volvos are one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Number 6 is the Acura TSX, which is such a baller little car that I recently have freaking fallen in love with since you guys always mention, Mark, do the Acura TSX, do the Acura TSX. And they get the number 10 spot. Acura, in case you don't know, is just Honda's American luxury line. So the cars are quite literally just more luxurious Hondas. And as we all know, Honda is very reliable, but the TSX actually looks extremely cool too. I literally just saw one the other day, literally 2 days ago. I was at the mall and it was parked in the parking lot and it was on the ground and it had TE37. They might have been rep TE37s, but they still looked really cool. And I stared at it for a good 10 minutes before leaving because they are just so cool looking cars. They're just so clean. They also have very good tuning support if you want a little race car. Number 5 surprised me more than any other car on this list. It is the Audi A4. Yes, the freaking Audi A4 makes this list somehow. Don't ask me how, but it gets the 13th spot and it makes no sense to me. Audi has always been a brand that people have kind of just thrown in the ballpark as unreliable and a very expensive car to own, but I guess not. I guess they were wrong. They also look really, really good and have huge tuning support, but I will say that once you start to modify Audis, or any German car for that matter, is when it ggets to be very unreliable. So don't say I didn't warn you if you start to modify your A4 and it starts to be unreliable. But yeah, am I the only one that did not think that Audi A4, an Audi A4 is on this list and there's no Volkswagen? And there's no BMW. But an Audi made it? How? Like, that is so weird to me. I never knew they were that reliable. Number 4 is the Honda Accord, which is actually the number 2 spot for most reliable in the world, which is insane. I knew they were reliable because they are a Honda, so it makes sense, but I never knew that they were that good. Like, that's good. As you can tell, it's beating the Camry. I guess the reason why I never really expected these ones to be reliable is because most of the cars on this list come with 4 cylinders, but the Accord comes with a V6 most of the time. I mean, yes, you can get the inline 4s, but I'm pretty sure they're talking about the V6 ones. And you would think that that would bring it down a bunch, but I guess not. These cars can also look extremely good when slammed on the ground with some nice wheels. Like, they have like a VIP look to them, but in a dirt cheap Honda, and I love that. I don't know really how well the tuning potential is for it, but if you're going for like a show car that's extremely reliable, the second most reliable car in the world, then a Honda Accord is honestly your best bet. Third place is arguably as surprising as the Audi. It's the Lexus LS400. Yes, this car is in the most reliable cars in this world, and they come with a freaking V8 in it, okay? Only car on this list to do that, and that's extremely impressive. By the way, I keep forgetting to do this. They get the number 8 spot, by the way, and they do it in freaking style. In case you don't know, Lexus is just like Toyota's luxury line, so it does make sense because it's a Toyota-built motor, but you would still think that it wouldn't be this reliable. Like, it beats the freaking Outback and the Elantra, some of the most seen dailies in the world somehow. Plus, they look extremely good when lowered, and they have they have like 270 horsepower, and most of all, they're rear-wheel drive too, so this is like a car guy's paradise. Second place is the freaking Miata, baby, the Mazda Miata. It gets the number 6 spot for most reliable. Yeah, the Miata is that reliable. This is the only quote-unquote sports car on this list, and I find it hilarious but also amazing. It further proves what Miata guys have like literally been saying since the dawn of time, and that is Miata is always the answer. I can't even argue that they're wrong anymore because every time I try to find something bad about the Miata, I fail. The car is so good. It's like, this is easily the most fun car on this list, and I promise you, if you're going to buy one, your life will just become amazing. They are just such a worry-free, fun, rear-wheel drive, 2-seaters, cool-looking, little tiny, highly modifiable, easy to work on, dirt cheap sports car that you could just do whatever you want to it, and it just accepts it. It's just like, yeah, all right, that's fine. Now, I don't know how much fun you're going to be having daily driving one just because of how small it is, but I guess you never have to worry about it breaking down, so that's a plus. First place, you already knew it was coming, is none other than the Honda Civic, which of course also gets the number 1 spot for most reliable car in the world. I mean, come on, man. What did you expect? It is the Civic. Everybody in the world knows that these cars are extremely reliable, but to be honest with you, I always thought the Camry was the number 1 spot. I'm still surprised by that, but in case you weren't paying attention, real quick, we're going to backtrack, give you a little bit of a summary of the video. The top 3 cars for most reliable in the world are all Hondas. So Honda is just a powerhouse of a car company for them daily driver puppies. But obviously, as a car guy, reliability isn't all that I care about. And that's the reason that I made this list, is to show you guys which ones are the actual best cars to buy for us. But the Civic isn't just a daily driver. They are also one of the probably the most tunable car on this list. Everybody that knows anything about cars will tell you that the Civic is so good for dirt cheap power, and paired with the fact that they are extremely reliable, they look very good when done right. Don't add a bunch of camber to it. They're also dirt cheap. It easily earns the number 1 spot in my eyes. But that is the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, let me know some cars that you are surprised didn't make the list, or some cars that you are surprised did make the list, because the Lexus LS400 and Audi A4 surprised the crap out of me. The Miata one, when I first saw it, I was like, whoa. But then I was like, okay, that makes sense. I should have known that. Like, they're a very reliable car. But still, there is some oddly reliable cars in this world. Like, you would not think that, like, some of these cars also share engines with other cars, so you would think that that would make the other car just as reliable. But I guess since you have to change the chassis around for most of the cars, like this, for example, the Outback and the Forester, they share the same engine. But I guess the Forester doesn't make the list because it's got a different chassis, probably has different suspension parts, and they probably take into consideration everything about the car, and then that's how they determine how it's reliable. But it's just surprising, man. It surprised the crap out of me. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Das Vidania. Have a nice night.